This is KBCC 89.5 FM, Tracy, California, Peace and Justice Network of San Joaquin.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to St. Mary's Rams hockey. My cohort, Zach Lytle, is on assignment. He's out recruiting kids for next season. So joining us tonight is my dear friend, I think of 11 years now. We just kind of figured it out before we came on the air. Good friend of mine. Works with the Heat. I'm going to let him go through his, he's got 1,000 things he's done in his life, and he's only 18 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, Mr. John Taylor.
Hello. It's good to be here tonight. Very happy to be here. I don't know, could start way back when I first got involved with hockey was kind of a rehab thing. I played high school football, got my knee ripped out.
It wasn't drug rehab, was it?
It was not drug rehab.
Good,
Thank you very much.
I wanted to get that clear.
However, some of my high school days, we might have had to do that, but no, we were able to get through that. But I had torn my knee playing high school football. And my doctor pretty much told me that my sports career was over.
You couldn't play physical sports, right, at that point?
That's what they said, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was kind of looking at how to do my rehab, and they really wanted me to work on quads. And Eric Heiden, the speed skater, was around. He had, quads like a frog. And so I thought maybe ice skating will be the thing to do. And so I went to the rink, and I got a pair of skates and stepped out on the ice, fell flat on my face multiple times. And then the ice guard came by and he said, "Why don't you get some hockey skates? Because that'll probably work a little better for you." So I did and picked it up and ended up getting a part-time job at the rink. Skated a lot, started doing choose-up games on Friday and Saturday nights. Ended up getting into senior league and played senior hockey down there for about probably 5 years.
So that's what started you, and that was back in. Do you remember? We're not going to test your memory.
Well, let's see. I'll
70s,
throw it out here.
70s or 80s?
It was in the 70s.
That's okay.
It was in the 70s.
I did stuff in the 60s and late 50s.
Well, there's some things in the 70s I don't remember, and some things in the late 60s I have a hard time remembering. Yeah. But people tell me they happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So from there, you played hockey, you said, as we just talked about. But then you went, where I met you was with the Stockton Thunder, which was here prior to our Heat being here in town. And how did you get involved with that?
It was kind of funny. It was by accident. The second year that the Thunder were in town, Mike McKnight was the PA announcer.
Oh, yeah, Mikey boy.
Yeah, there you go.
Mr. Podcast.
Mr. Podcast now. Bent and Ballistic, in case you're wondering.
Yes.
So
give him a plug.
So anyway, long story short, he had to miss a few games, and they needed a backup announcer, a backup PA guy. So Mike gave me the call. He knew that I'd played hockey and kind of had an idea of what to do, and I'd done a lot of DJ stuff for him, a lot of private events and emceed events. So I show up and do the hockey thing. I'm doing the announcing and enjoyed that. I'd come to all the games, and just in case something happened and Mike wouldn't show up. And a couple of times they had me fill in as the fun and games guy.
Oh, yeah. I remember those.
Yeah.
I remember your first night, as a matter of fact.
My very first fun and games night, that was back when we used to do the Let's Play Hockey Kids.
That's right.
I think it was Kids Care Dental was the...
yeah, nice plug for them. Where's our residual? We need the residual.
Kids Care Dental, that's what it is. Kids Care Dental, remember that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But Anthony was my first Let's Play Hockey Kid. I think he was like 4 years old.
Yeah, he was a youngster.
He was real shy, didn't really want to do it. We had to play around with him. And he came out and did it. And then... every game that y'all were at, he would come over and say hi to me.
He still
does.
Last season, if he saw you down in the penalty box, he'd come and say hello, and then he would bring his brother to see you too. But
Well, that was kind of the fun thing. And yeah, Anthony's really cool. Enjoyed watching him grow up, watching his hockey career, what he's doing with St. Mary's now. He's a pretty amazing young man.
Yeah.
And like I said, I knew him when he was this big, and now I have to look up to see him. So
yeah, where that guy
I know, right?
And we didn't get any older.
No, not at all. Not even any grayer. I don't
exactly.
think.
We're white as we can be.
But so I was there one night waiting to see if Mike needed a backup assistant if he wasn't going to make it. And Kurt Goodman, who's the director of the off-ice officials, was scrambling around, and they were short a goal judge. And so Kurt came over and he asked me if I could be the goal judge. And he said, "Can you do that?" And I go, "Yeah, you just push the button, right? They score the goal Make the red light go on. How do you do it? And show me the button.
And we had a friend of ours do it, and now he's back east, Jeff Zola.
Yeah.
And we used to call, well, we can't say that on the air, but he used to push the button before the goal went
We
in.
called him premature illumination.
Oh, good. You
Yeah.
cleaned it up. I like
Yeah,
that.
it's like, Jeff, was that in? And he goes, well, I think it's 60% was in. I'm not sure. But so I started as being kind of a backup off-ice official, and whenever they needed me to fill in for a place, I would. I was fortunate enough to get to work in pretty much all of the different positions there as an off-ice official. I've been a goal judge. I've been up doing plus minus shots on goal. Actually got into the penalty boxes. I've ran the clock. And,
I'm gonna. Something just came into my head, and if I don't say it, I'll forget as old as I
okay,
am.
go ahead.
Now, for the people that are listening, shots on goal. Now, I know what a real shot on goal is. A lot of people think because the goaltender catches it or deflects it, it's a shot on goal, and I believe that's not correct.
That is not correct. It's not a shot on
tell
goal
them-
unless it has the potential to go inside the net.
The 4x6,
Yes,
right?
inside the 4x6.
Okay, so I wanted to get that out because when I'm on the sidelines or I'm doing the penalty box or keeping score,
Right.
I've had goalie parents with me in there, and that's a shot on goal. Well, no, it was going to be wide of the net, and then we get into a little thing. But I guess it makes them feel better if he saved 30 shots.
Well, it puts their save percentage up quite higher. But
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no. That's a great point to bring up because even with the professional team, even with the Heat, it's very critical that
sure.
shots on goal are called and called correctly.
Right.
They actually call the shots on goal from up at the scores table, which is right up behind section 101.
Right. That's where
And
Kurt hangs out.
That's where Kirk hangs out, exactly. And there are times that they can't tell. And, they'll get on the radio and they'll call the goal judge and say, was that on or not? And, so we can clarify it to make sure that they are
it's
correct.
important for them to be accurate because that determines how good they are, right?
Exactly.
So you want to
the
try to
goalie's
get that-
rated on that,
Yeah.
and that's
Now the goalie's going to tell you that would have went in, but you can't. That's why you can't ask him.
True. True.
Go ahead. I didn't interrupt you. So
No, that's
You've
okay.
done all that. You're up. You've done all this stuff. Now continue on with your story.
So anyway, so I was working in the penalty box, and we had one of our longtime officials pass away. That was Ray Larson. You remember Ray?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Sad
so
situation.
very sad. And
guy.
so I took over Ray's position as the home team penalty box attendant with the Thunder. And basically, what we do is when our team gets a penalty, we open the door, write them up, tell them you've been a bad boy, sit down for 2 or 5 minutes, whatever it is, feel shame, make sure that when you come out, you don't come back and see me again. And then, when there's a timeout, the officials skate over, the referees skate over, and we give them water and a towel and, take care of them. We're the hospitality guy for the on-ice officials. And then when the Heat came into town, when we got the AHL in, we started doing video replay for questionable goals.
Now, where's those cameras? Just for a novice?
Directly over the nets.
And that's it.
Facing
You don't
down.
have one in the net like they do in the NHL.
No, it's just directly over the net, facing down. Position-wise, you can see the goal line, which is all that we really need to see.
Right.
And so if there's a questionable goal, the official will come over and we'll rewind it and take a look at it.
Now, to clarify this again, I know the answer to it, and I know you know the answer to it, but for the people that are listening that don't know the answer to it, if the puck is still on that red line in the net, any part of that puck, it is not a goal. It has to clearly, you have to be able to see ice between the line and the
Exactly.
puck.
It has to go completely across the goal line.
A lot of people don't understand that. They see it, and usually in the stands, you obviously can't see really
Right.
well. Sometimes if you're behind the net, you probably can.
Right.
But yeah, it's important. And then the people, obviously the home team, they want it to be a goal. And
Right.
So that's a critical part of the game.
Well, and the on-ice referees that we have, they're very cognizant about using that tool. So if there's a goal that's questionable, if it's something that they don't think went in, or maybe it did and, it came out too quick or whatever, hit a back part of the post or something, they'll come in and we'll rewind it for them.
And just to jump back to the St. Mary's team, and again, we're talking about my grandson, but it happened to him. He had a shot down in Anaheim, and they televise those games. You have to pay for the feed, but they televise those games. Anyhow, the camera angles are terrible, but
Right.
you can see that they're shooting, and you can see the players and such, but you're not
Right.
can't see it like you do on like NHL type stuff. So they both said he shoots, he scores, and they go, what's going on? That puck was clearly in the net. Well, the referee didn't see it,
Right.
So therefore, it's not a goal,
Right.
Everybody that was at the rink, the parents that were there, said there's no question. But those are one of those things. Well, he's in the youth hockey, obviously.
Right.
You got to go. If you don't see it, it didn't happen. That's basically like a baseball umpire. If he doesn't see it, he can't call him out just
Exactly.
because he can't see it.
Exactly.
So, anyhow, those things sometimes the fans get a little excited about, but that's the truth of the
It
matter.
works really well, and a great example of this is back again Thunder game. I was goal judge, and this was back when Matt Thomas was our coach.
Oh, the Tito.
Yeah, Tito.
Tito, you're out there
Absolutely.
listening, brother.
So I'm down on the Zamboni end of the ice. I don't remember. I think we were playing Alaska. They came down. There was a shot, came in really quick, and came right back out of the net. Okay, and the only way I knew that puck had made it into the net was they used to put the water bottles up on top of the net.
It popped the water bottle.
And the water bottle just barely popped up, and it flew right back out,
Yeah.
right? So I lighted up, and Tito's dad was in the stands behind me, and he lit me up. That wasn't a goal, and yes it was, and so the referee
And that was
tell.
maybe back when Dubnyk was in that. I don't know that.
No, Doobie wasn't there. Then
Doobie
he'd already
was
moved
gone.
up.
Okay.
Yeah, but and I could see Matt on the bench, and he was pointing his finger at me and telling me that was not a goal. And
Talking about some of your ancestors.
exactly right. And so
That sounds
after the game, they get the copy of the disc, and everything's recorded, so the coaches get a chance to see it. And so after the game was over, Matt comes out and he goes, "It was a goal." And I go, "Well, I know it was. No, it was a goal." All right. Well, tell your dad not to cuss at me anymore.
It's all right. I mean, that's it's one of those games that things happen in a second, and especially at the level that you're watching now, it happens so fast,
Right.
And the shots are clean and crisp and fast, and it's like, man, if you blink, you may miss it. And I
Right.
mean, that's how crucial it is. So I get it, and like anything else, they're even in the AHL guys miss them. Sometimes the camera angle doesn't prove out the
Exactly.
point either.
Exactly.
And once they make a call, a goal or no goal, it has to be pretty significant for them to overturn that call.
Right.
So,
We've been fortunate. A lot of the stuff that they've come into question, and I'm going to be pro referee, and a lot of the stuff that they come into question, their calls were right on spot. So.
right. And, like I said, that game is very fast, so it's hard. So the offsides is, it's unless you're standing right on that line, it's hard to tell sometimes. It's that close because a pass can come from the opposite side of the rink across, and when this guy catches the puck, he might be 5 feet or 6 feet into the zone,
Right.
And everybody thinks that's got to be offsides, but it's when the puck clears the
When it
blue
clears
line.
the blue line, right?
And if he's still on the blue line, by the time that puck angles across him, he can't maybe even more than 6 feet
Right.
in. So, and you hear the fans go, "Oh, it's offsides! Why
Right.
aren't they blowing a whistle?" Well, it really isn't offsides.
Or you hear the
So-
team yell they're offsides.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
The
exactly.
teams are very good coaches and referees themselves. So
yeah, they've done it many times.
of course, right?
But yeah, it's a great game. It's been fun this season. We're wrapping up St. Mary's first season. I'm going to go into a little bit of that, and then we're going to go back to you for some talk in the penalty
Some of the
boxes.
fun stuff.
We're
Okay,
gonna-
absolutely.
So stay tuned. We're not going on a break, but he's got some great stories. Want to go over the players that were on the team this year for those people that have listened in. This team's got 2 more games, maybe 3, but I believe it's 2. They're leaving for Shattuck St. Mary's on Friday, not tomorrow, the following Friday, the 22nd. I want to say, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I believe that's the date. 15 and 7 is 22. Got it. Okay, so they're going to fly back, and this is a real thing for these kids to play against Shattuck St. Mary's. Is world-renowned. I'm sure you've heard of them, John.
Right.
A lot of players we've talked about in the prior shows, Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane,
It's the holy grail.
the holy grail of high school hockey.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I've seen pictures. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go back there. I wanted to just so I could say I was there. I mean, that's how this place holds itself. So the kids get to go back. The boys, I shouldn't call them kids because most of them are bigger than I am, taller than I am, got more hair in their chest than I do. But anyhow, that's another story for another time. But they they're going back and they get to play against one of the premier teams in the United States. Yeah. So they're going to play against great competition. The kids are all looking forward to going back there. I was at practice today. The kids are working on breakouts and power play stuff and all the integral points. Their Anaheim Duck season is over. We'll get into that in a minute. But so the whole focus is on this next weekend. And the boys are really looking forward to go back there. I know that they will play well. This team hasn't won a lot this year, but as you'll attest to, John, it's not always about winning and losing. It's about where you come from the beginning of the season to where you finish at the end, as far as where your production, how you're feeling the game, how you're reading the game.
Right.
It's all a learning process. And I got to tell you, watching these kids, how much faster practice is, and the coach just tells them a couple things, and they're out there doing their thing. They're not having to be instructed on every skill that they're out there performing. He skated by me. I was on the bench. He skated by me. He goes, "Much better team right now than it was at the beginning." And sure it was. And it's hard effort. But go ahead, John. You had a thought.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I had the opportunity to go see a couple of games. And,
yes, you did.
And
we want to thank you for. We had an AHL official in the penalty box, 2 places, one in Oak Park and one at the Stockton Arena.
Yeah.
And I really thank you for coming out. Nobody gets paid. I mean, these guys don't get paid to come out, but John's a friend of mine, and he found out, he knew we were having games. He said, anything I can do to help you. And we already had somebody sweeping the parking lot, so we didn't need that, thank God. we had John. It was fun to have you there, and then your experience. Go ahead.
I was really surprised, to be honest with you. This was St. Mary's first year out of the box, and I was expecting to go out and see kind of a hodgepodge and mismatch and kids that weren't really focused on what they were doing in the game, because it's not something you learn overnight. And these kids hadn't played together, most of them. And so I was very impressed with the quality of play. And I'm sitting there going, these are high school kids, and they're fast, and they shoot hard, and they hustle. And again, the quality of play was very impressive, and I was very happy to go.
I had a friend of mine, and I've talked about this in prior show again, so if you heard this, just bear with me real quick. He came to his first game. He's known Anthony for most of his life, and he came out to watch him. And so he's sitting by me up in the stands. The game we played at the arena against Bellarmine, and the first 2 shots of Bellarmine are in the back of the net. It's like, I go, this may not the best game.
We said the same thing inside the penalty box. It's like, well, this is going to be a long game.
And then they rebounded.
Yes, they never gave up.
Never gave up, and they ended up winning, I think, 6-2. But
very impressive comeback, yeah.
That team, I followed them the whole year. Most of the games I've been to, some of them I didn't, but I watched them. Our team never gave up. They were behind in goals. They come back, tie it. The team we lost to, and we'll get to that in a minute, but the team we lost to in the playoffs was Jay Serra, who won states for a high school state team.
Right.
And they just won the Anaheim Duck team, being Santa Margarita, which was the champs the year prior.
Right.
So it was this team had like 19 players. We had 10.
Right.
And 11 of those players were seniors. We have 1 senior left on our team. The other senior left the team due to grades. Great kid. That's just why he's not here. It's not because he chose not to be here. He just couldn't get his grade average up. And we missed you out there, Jed. We really did. But that being said, so we have 1 senior. We have 2 juniors, I think, on the team. 1 didn't play this season because of injury. And the rest of them are freshmen and sophomore. So, I mean, the nucleus of this team should be around for a while.
Should be very strong, exactly.
And next year it should be a different story. Kind of bring you up to date. Numbers are skewed a little bit, but I think we have between 11 and 13 players saying they're coming to the program. So that'll bring us up. If they all come, and it all works out, we should have 22 players next year.
That'd be great.
Which is like doubling the numbers that we have.
Right.
And I think, and our coach won't like me saying this, but because he doesn't think anybody gets tired, or they
Right.
shouldn't get tired. They're young, they're kids.
Right.
They got stamina.
That was my football
Boy.
coach. Yeah, you don't ever get tired.
Yeah, man. How about that, coach? Yeah, man. It sounds just like you. But anyhow, but I think in the third period, says the games we lost that we could have won, were in that, and just we didn't. I don't want to say it's stamina, but that's what I'm going to have to say. I
Right.
think they just some of them ran out of gas. Not all of them,
Right.
but some of them. And when you have a small team or short bench team, those things happen. So I think next year, it's going to be better advantage because they won't have to be on the ice so much. But when they're out there, they can bust their rear ends and be more productive.
Right. Well, the thing again, what I was going to say about the games that I saw, both games that I went to, St. Mary's was behind right away, and with Bellarmine, they were behind 2-0 immediately.
Yeah.
And so the kids never put their heads down. They never felt they weren't in the game. They just kept plugging along, and you could see that there wasn't that sense of panic or, this team just beat it, just scored 2 goals on us right away, and they never gave up, and there was no panic, and, they knew they had a job and they did it. And, the end result was a 6-2 victory.
And that's what these kids have been the whole year. We went back east and played in the NAPHL league, which is monster teams back there. Shattuck St. Mary's plays in that league. I can't think of the names of the teams, but they're very good teams, predominantly 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
So we got this freshman, sophomore team with a couple of seniors sprinkled in there playing against these kids. And every team came up and shook their hands and said, you guys, we thought we'd smoke you, and they didn't. You know what I mean? Here's this team, the first-year team, they got a bunch of we should just manhandle these kids, but that didn't happen. I mean, they win the game, absolutely, but so next year should be.
Well, they knew they were in a game,
right?
Yeah, they knew they were in a game.
Yeah, and these kids have learned, and just from my standpoint as a spectator, really watching them where they've come from, and it's a pretty gelled team. I mean, for the first year, going in like a blind man into a lighted room, which means nothing to them. They just, the first times they travel, usually without their parents. Some of them have done it, but for the most part, they're on their own. They're in Minnesota. They're in Detroit.
Right.
They're all around. And, you got 2 coaches. And we did have Kelly Brown. I'd like to tip my hat to you. You were the team manager this year. We want to thank you for everything you did. I want to get that in before I forget. But she was on the road making sure they ate well, properly, got them stuff. And so, but other than that, they were on their own.
Right.
I mean, we went to Minnesota, and I happened to go on the first trip with them, and Blaine, Minnesota. That's hockey central back there. Played at the Schwantz. You know Schwantz, the people who deliver food around?
Oh, yeah.
It's called the Schwantz Center, Super Center.
Okay.
8 sheets of ice under one roof.
Wow.
8. I mean, it's a massive place. I got tired walking from rink to rink. That's how big it was.
Right.
But anyhow, so they're on the road. They had wake-up calls at 5 o'clock in the morning to get down to have breakfast, to get on in the vans and get to the game. I mean, here's these kids, and we get to the airport, coming home, and my grandson comes up to me and goes, I left my wallet in the hotel. We're getting on the plane. I said, well, you dummy. I mean, I have to tell you to go look for stuff. I mean, you should have it in your pants pocket or in your bag or whatever. So I said, you better get on the blower, which is the phone for people that don't know what a blower is. Get on the phone and call that hotel and have them go check that room and mail it to you if they can find it. If not, you're SOL. I don't know what else to tell you. So anyhow, that's what happened. But just things like that. Not waking up. Well, I didn't hear my alarm or whatever it was. I mean, so these kids went through the gauntlet. All these kids coming in now have somebody that's been through the system, know what to expect. And now, and I've told the guys that are coming back next year, and everybody says they're coming back, and we want them to. There's not a question about that. Things may happen, unforeseen things that they can't come back or whatever, but for the most part, they're all coming back. I said, you guys got to grab a kid that's coming in and help him when he goes to school and when, going to practice and tell him, you can't screw around. We did that for the first semester, and we all kind of figured it out after that, and we had to put our rear ends in gear, not only for the hockey, but the scholastic part of it.
Right.
I mean, I was blown back. I've been around Stockton since '76, and I've driven by that school many times. I was on the campus for the first time, I believe, last summer, and it's like a college campus. I mean, they got a ton of stuff going on there. Everything's state of the art.
Right.
And I've said this before, they have 6 classes and a lunch, right? Well, on Mondays they have, I'm just using numbers, they have 1, 2, 3 on Monday. They don't have those classes till Wednesday. They do 4, 5, and 6 on Tuesday, and it alternates like that.
Right.
So here's the kid, brand new. He just came from a public school maybe, and so I go to school and I get my homework. Oh, my homework's due, but I don't have that class till Wednesday, so I don't have to worry about it until Tuesday. Well, then Tuesday you go to class, now you got homework again. So now you get behind the 8 ball and you're playing catch up all the time. And so time management's big with these kids. And I told them, I said, you guys really got to get these young people coming into our program and tell them, hey, you know what? It's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of camaraderie.
Right.
But there's work to be done, because if you don't make the grade point average, you're not playing.
Right.
And your parents are paying money for you to come here to play. So
I know that. Both my sons went to St. Mary's.
Oh, okay.
One
So
played
you're
football,
you're
one was a wrestler, yeah.
You're familiar with it.
Yeah.
So I think going forward, now that we have a season under our belt, we'll be better prepared, because we meaning the coaches and myself and other people around, we've seen a few things that we need to do different next year for the better. Be more organized with it, but we're kind of feeling our way, figuring out what's going on. But after this year, I think we got it.
Yeah.
Give us a story about the penalty box.
There are some stories that I can't share about the penalty box based on
We'll do those after the show.
Certain verbiage.
Yes.
But, the thing that's funny is you'll see these guys out on the ice, and even in warm-ups a lot of time, they'll skate by each other, and they're kind of, chipping at each other. You want to go, you want to go, you want to go.
Yeah.
And then at some point in time, they might, have a nice little fight on the ice. There's a lot of respect for the most part. These guys will skate in and sit down, and they'll look over the other guy and say, hey, nice go, eh? And they're complimenting each other on the fight. They go in and some of them will say, I'm so out of shape,
Yeah.
I couldn't go another 5 seconds with you. That's why I quit.
Yeah.
But it depends on who comes into the box. Some of them are very easygoing.
Let's ask about an old fan favorite from the Thunder, Mr. Garrett Hunt, a good friend of mine, playing back east in Jacksonville right now.
Yep.
He's proud of this too, John. This is the funny. He holds the most penalty minutes ever by a player in the ECHL.
And he deserved every minute of it.
So he was pretty feisty kid.
Garrett was very focused. He was a hustler, and he wasn't afraid of anyone.
No.
And that's what made him a leader on the team. He didn't let anybody manhandle the players on his team with him. His teammates, and he wasn't afraid to protect anybody. He wasn't afraid to go up with them. There were times when Garrett would come into the penalty box, and he would be an extremely unhappy man, and he would voice his opinion. And I'm surprised they didn't hear it on both ends of the arena, because he was yelling so loud. We've had guys come into the box and they'll slam their stick against the glass, or they'll pick up a water bottle and throw it against the glass, or things like that. And we just have to sit there and, kind of calm them down. Here's where we are. This is what we got to do. You got 2 minutes. Might as well just relax and, try to get them to chill.
Have you ever let a guy out at the wrong time?
I have not. However, it has been done.
I'm sure it has.
It has been done.
The other penalty box guy?
I'm not going to mention Mel's name at all. But
Mel, I love you, Mel. We love you, Mel. But he just wasn't paying attention to the clock, or
Mel was actually looking. We had 2 penalties going. My guy got a penalty a few minutes or a few seconds later than the opposing team player, and Mel, for whatever reason, was focused on my penalty clock, which was about 18 seconds ahead of the other guy's penalty. And so the guy still had 18 minutes to go, and Mel opens the door and goes, get out of here, go, go, go. And the guy just looked at him like, is this a trick?
Yeah,
Are you trying to get me in trouble? Is this a trick? So we're yelling at Mel, close the door, you know, and then finally my guy takes off and Mel's still trying to get his guy to go out. And he still had like 5 seconds left on the penalty.
I had, obviously not in that level you were at, but I was the penalty box guy over here for when the Colts were playing, and we had 2 offsetting penalties, but they put the penalty minutes on the board, which is unusual. It shouldn't. Usually offsetting, they don't go on the board. So it's a 2-minute, you keep time, and then a whistle, and they're gone.
Well, they'll go on the board if they're skating 4-on-4. But if they still go 5-on-5, and then it's 2 minutes plus a whistle,
right,
it won't go on the board. But if they're skating 4-on-4, it goes on the board.
Right. Well, they were on the board, and the clock expired. But and it could have been 4-on-4. That's my bad, because I'm thinking, and the benches are just hammering me. Let them on the ice. Let them on the ice. They're screaming. I go, I got to wait for a whistle. I got to wait for a whistle. So anyhow, I waited for the whistle. They went out, and the referee comes over, and he says, I'll give you an easy example. If the clock's running on the board, you let them out. Yeah. If they're not on the board, you keep them for the whistle. Oh, well, you should explain that to me before I took the penalty box. But anyhow, right. So those are little nuances that people don't understand, and it's up to the official. If they're coincidentals, usually they let you play 5-on-5.
Right.
I don't know what you might be able to tell me that. What constitutes 4-on-4?
It's really, we find that it's the referee's discretion, to be honest with you. So there's sometimes where it'll be the same.
He's trying to penalize the players and not the team.
Exactly.
When he lets 5-on-5 go, these guys deserve these 2 minutes.
Exactly.
The team doesn't deserve the.
Exactly.
I get it.
So it's 2 minutes plus a whistle, know, so they sit there for 2 minutes and a whistle.
Yeah.
But we did have an incident. This was like, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. But there was an altercation on the ice. One guy gets, our guy gets a fighting penalty. The other team gets a fighting, plus he gets 2 minutes for instigating. And according to the rule book, an instigator also gets a 10-minute misconduct.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. We weren't thinking that, and the referee didn't tell us that. And so the guy comes in, and we have the person serve the 2 minutes for him. Then he serves his full 7.
Right.
And we let him out. And again, this was in the other box. I'm not going to mention Mel's name again because I don't want to throw Mel under the bus, but we let him out.
Poor Mel.
And and it's right at the end of the period. There's about maybe 4 minutes left in the period. Clock expires. Everybody goes off the ice. They come back after the intermission, and the linesman skates over and he goes, that guy was supposed to stay in another 10 minutes. Nobody told us. It's like, wow, just think of the ramifications if he would have scored, because he did a couple of shifts after he came back on the ice. If he would have scored or got another penalty. So we ended up having to bring him back into the box after we had let him out.
When did the 10 minutes start? Did they tell you like 8 or whatever?
Yeah, they said, okay, we know that 4 minutes had elapsed, so his right about for 6, yeah. So that's what we did. But there are there's little nuances like that, little things that happen that we don't know all the rules inside and out.
Yeah.
Some of the officials have sometimes
all the rules
forgot what they should tell us. But for the most part, we're pretty much on it. Dan Helms, who is our official penalty timekeeper, he's been around hockey for 100 years.
Now, does he work for the post office?
No, that's Mike Gosniak. He's our clock operator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So those guys are in your ear. They're upstairs?
The guys in my ear are upstairs. And
but are they the ones that are penalty clock guys?
No. The penalty guy is right next to me in the penalty box.
He's got
the long
goat.
Yeah.
Goat look. Yeah. Okay.
So and Danny's been with us since the beginning of the Thunder games, but he's a walking book of knowledge. He knows the rule book pretty well. I have one in my briefcase I carry with me on the ice, and I go through it all the time and check out things. But there's some things that we don't know everything. So
well, absolutely, it's hard to. Then I got to ask you this question: has there ever been like the wrong player go in the box? They got the penalty right. Say it's on 14. And somehow 12 is the weaker of the 2 players, and he takes himself off, and nobody catches it.
I don't think we've had that issue.
I'm sure it's happened.
Not that I could recollect, but
right.
I do know that we have announced on the PA system Somebody had a penalty that was still out on the ice skating, and it wasn't his penalty in the first place. Or he was sitting on the bench. It's like, penalty on number 14, 2 minutes for a roughing.
Yeah.
And it's like, excuse me, but it's 41 that's in the box. So we make mistakes.
Well, everybody does, yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of kibitzing going on between you guys. Now, you're probably not supposed to talk to the players. I don't know what that is. You probably can if they engage you in conversation, and you can engage back. But
the thing is, we're AHL officials,
Right.
And we're not supposed to show any kind of bias towards the team. And it's hard. I mean, it's our home team. We root for these guys.
Yeah.
We see them come up, and we see them, move
yeah.
up and stuff. We see how hard they work. And occasionally we get carried away, jump up and go, yeah, or get, kind of crazy about it.
Catch.
But when the guys come into the box, most of the time, they're kind of focused on what's going on. They'll chat once in a while. Ryan Lombard, when he comes in, he always goes, hey, man, how's it going? What's going on? How was your weekend? He's very conversational.
Yeah.
And but most of the time when they come in, they're a lot of fun. They're pretty cool guys.
Yeah. And we were talking around the rink about how we're talking about NHL now, not St. Mary's, but these guys will fight. You and I will fight during the game for whatever reasons. Sometimes it's just to spark your team. They're having a bad game.
Exactly.
And they don't need me on the ice because I'm not the scoring guy.
Right.
I'm the guy that just goes out there and plays.
Right.
I'm the blue collar guy out there, right? So I try to get their best player to go to get him off the ice, and that usually doesn't happen because those guys don't necessarily fight, but they're an enforcer, if you want to use that term. I know
Right.
that's going away in hockey, but you go up to them and say, I got to go, so you want to go with me, or you just want me to drag you down and we'll go.
Right.
And so that gets the crowd excited, and your teammates say, hey, this guy's out here fighting for us. Let's pick up
It fires
the
them
pace.
up, yeah. Fires up the crowd, too.
And I think sometimes you don't see it very often where they pull a goalie. They might have 3 shots go in, bing, bing, bing. They pull a goalie, and I think not so much. I think a little bit. You should have blocked a few of those shots, but it's to make the rest of the team go, man, our goalie just had to get kicked out because we're not playing as hard as
Right.
we should in front of him.
You can't blame everything on the goalie.
Right.
There's defenders that are in front of that goalie that should be, helping out as much as they can.
Yeah.
I notice a lot of goals that do go in. It's just a letdown on defense, But there are obviously goals that are awesome shots, and,
Right,
and these
right.
people pick their corner.
I
and-
saw one this morning. I was on the internet, and it was said a weirdest goal, and it was an NHL goal, and it was the strangest thing I had ever seen. The puck comes in from the red line, pops it all the way down to the back, the boards, the backboards. It bounces off, hits something. The goaltender goes around to thinking it's going to rim, right?
Right.
He goes behind to stop. The puck comes back and hits the goal line.
Yeah.
And it's 6-7 feet away from the net, hits something in the ice and put it right in the net. It was I've never seen it. I've never seen anything like it. It was like you watch a golfer hit a ball past the goal, he spins it, and it comes back into the hole.
So basically, that was a C&I goal.
It was crazy.
Just kind of
I've
found
never
its way
seen
in.
anything. It's probably on the internet if you look up the craziest goal.
We'll have to look that one up.
It's unbelievable. You watch it, and you have to watch it 2 or 3 times because the angle that they show it at, you see it coming off the wall, then they kind of look at the goaltender to see what he's doing,
Right.
and the puck hits like I said, the goal line, and has to travel 5 or 6 feet into the net, and the goaltender's like, "What in the world just happened
Right.
here?" So crazy stuff happens out there on the ice. It's a fun game to watch. Go to a Heat game or go to any game. St. Mary's would be nice for you to come out.
Exactly. I say if you have an opportunity to go see St. Mary's play, do it.
It's really a awesome game. Weird things happen that you can talk about later. Try to get around people that you think have been to a hockey game if you've
Right.
never been out there, because it's so fast and so. Why did they call that? Icing is one of those. When you're on a power play and you're shorthanded, you can ice the puck. Then they'll watch the game and not realize they're shorthanded.
Right.
And that way they just did that. Why is that? What's the difference? And
Right.
so there's those little nuances that people aren't familiar with going out there. I had a guy when the Thunder first came to town. It's a great story. He owned Bruce's Body Shop.
Collision of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob was his name, passed away. Rest in peace, my friend. But he came into our dealership, and he's telling this other guy that don't know anything about hockey, Ron Savelli. If you're out there listening, I'm talking about you. And so he tells me, he goes, Bob was in here telling me that those guys will be on the ice 4 or 5 minutes at a time. I said, they're not out there 4 or 5 minutes. You're lucky to be out there 30 to 40 seconds, maybe a little longer if there's some stoppages, but for the most part, 30 to 40 seconds.
Right.
No, they don't. He said, the whistle doesn't blow that often. I said, they don't have to blow.
Right.
They come off. I said, tell them to watch the game. Don't follow the puck. And you'll see a lot more to the game than following the puck.
Right.
So he tells this guy, so now that guy's going to tell somebody else, and so on and so forth. And when they told me that, I said, no. He said, he swears up and down. I said, well, he's got a lot of money. Tell him to put it up for grabs because I'll come and show him that he's wrong. But It's interesting how people go and watch the same game you do and don't see the same things you do.
The thing that I find really fun is people that have never been to a game in person. You know, they'll watch it on TV for a second, and it's too quick on TV. Right. They can't follow the puck, and they just move on to the next activity. But people that come to a game that have never been there, the intensity and the excitement involved in the game, it's really contagious. You have a lot of them that come back.
On the hits. And
one of my favorite radio stories, I work in radio, is that back when the Thunder were here, I talked with Dan Chapman.
Sure.
And I was trying to get them to advertise with our radio stations for a long, long time. And kind of the rule of thumb and the thought process was, Hispanics don't watch hockey. You know, it's not a Hispanic sport. You know, if it was soccer or even baseball, football, they love those sports, but hockey's not a big thing. And so I tried for years to get them to advertise with us. And finally, I get a call from him after Brad Robotham had bought the team. They were interested in looking at Hispanic advertising. I get a call from Dan, and I go in and meet with them, and they had this, well, let's do a Hispanic night. And again, my thought process is it's not something you can learn in one night, right?
Oh, that gave
so,
way too complex.
You know, they gave me their presentation, and I basically said, you know, I appreciate it, but I honestly, I'm going to, respectfully decline because it's not going to work unless, of course, you have Vicente Fernandez or somebody like that playing during the intermissions. And so they asked me what my idea was, and I said, well, this is what I want to do. I want to educate the Hispanic audience on what hockey's all about. I said, my idea is I'd like to have season tickets, 10 season tickets that we can give away on air. And we will invite people to come and watch the game. Now, the way I did it was for about the first, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 home games. I had 2 of my promotions guys go with the 8 people that we brought with us. One of them was from Mexico City. He'd never seen a hockey game in his life. And the other one is born and raised here in the States and is extremely sports oriented. And so they take these people, and we're filming them and putting them on our YouTube and on our webpage for the radio station. These people had never seen hockey. And the excitement was so amazing. I mean, the first time somebody got slammed into the boards or they dropped the gloves to fight, these people were going nuts, you know, and I had asked Dan, I said, if we see an increase in attendance, what will you be happy with? And he says, if it's 1%, I'll be happy. And I think it went up 6% that year just by adding that demographic to it. So hockey it's an international sport. If you experience it, if you just go see it, it's an amazing game, and you'll fall in love with it.
And following up on what you just said, we have 2, and everybody knows this that listens to me, that we have 2 Israelis playing on this team.
Yeah, right.
From Israel, and they're Russian. Their parents are from Russia, but born in Israel. Right. So it's kind of a unique, and it's funny because you get between the 2 of the boys, and one tells the other one he's better than the other one, and they banter back and forth. You know, it's and they're both going. This is an interesting fact. They're both leaving. They're not going to St. Mary's with the team, but they're going to Bulgaria, I want to say, to play for their home team. National,
cool.
Yeah, 16s, I believe, 16U kids.
Right.
So they're getting to go back now to play there in their hockey.
Right.
So it's fun. They're kind of excited about going, and the one is a little, I don't want to say mouthier, but he's a little bit more outgoing than I'm talking about you, Sar. I'm not going to name names. Sar Medvedovsky. Mazor. That's his name. Can
Right.
you imagine? That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Thank God you don't score a lot of goals because the announcers would have that all screwed up. And then we have Itai Bandar. And Itai, a month or 2 months ago, just turned 14.
Oh, wow.
He came through the St. Mary's thing, and he had his grade. He was able to join at an earlier age. So,
Right.
And they're both great kids. They're both great guys, but they banter back and forth. So I asked, and Sar really, he's pretty proud of who he thinks he is, right? And
Right.
and you got to love the guy because you got a little chip on his shoulder, and that's okay.
That's okay.
But he says, so I tell him today, I said, what do you think you're going to do with the Israelis? He goes, I'm nervous, man. I don't know. He says, I said, just go out and everything you've learned this year, go out there and use it.
Right.
Don't worry about it. Let the chips fall where they may. I think he told me, he says, I got to quit overthinking things. Yeah, make it simple.
Right.
I think that's what happens to kids. They're pushing themselves, but they're going to make mistakes out there. Your AHL players make mistakes out there
Right.
every night. I mean, the NHLers make mistakes out there. I mean, nobody's perfect in this game, but you learn as you go along, right? There's so many. You listen to the coach, and he designs skill form drills, and they're out there. And he goes, just because some dummy told you have to pass the puck, he's talking about himself. That wasn't the play here. You had to play here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but coach, you told me it doesn't matter what I told you. You got to read the play and go to
It's
the right
fluid.
spot.
It always changes.
And it always changes.
Right.
So I've said this before. You can chime in anytime you want, Dustin. We got the 5-minute count. We've done a pretty good job, John.
It's been fine.
Yeah, we're going for another hour. So, getting back to what I was thinking is that these baseball, you have in between pitches. So if you're a coach, you don't like where the left fielder's playing, you wave them over, which way,
Right.
bring them in, bring them out. Same thing you do with the infielders. You have that time span.
Right.
Football, you have a play,
Same
and then
thing.
you have a huddle.
Right.
So, but this game, they do get schooled when they come off the ice.
Right.
But when you got to balance yourself, you got to be physically fit to play.
Right.
And you're moving with a little disc on the end of your stick.
Right.
And you got to make the right play.
And you have to have an amazing field of vision because things are happening all around you, and plays are happening that are right there right now. So make that play.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
so it's a unique game, and if you go out there with that idea in the back of your head, because a lot of guys are like, oh, they missed that pass, they missed this, but I watched an NHL game the other night, and the passes were terrible. But the announcer said the ice is bad.
Right.
So, and as you know, because I don't get on the ice unless it's on my rear end, because that's where I end up. But the ice, if it's not cut right or it's getting soft or whatever it might be,
Right.
that puck, even though on TV it looks like, man, that's a crisp pass. That thing's bouncing. The skates go up and down.
Oh, right.
I mean,
They chatter.
They chatter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's little nuances that people don't really realize.
Right.
Now, some of the kids are just they blow the pass, right?
Right.
But when you're seeing the team do well, or one team doing well and the other one's not, it's probably because of their level of play.
Right.
Anyhow, it's a fun game to watch. We made it through our inaugural season. I want to go through the lineup of players and thank them for coming this year. Tristan Tellis, who left the team a couple of weeks ago, was our starting goaltender. Thank you for being there. Hunter Hayes. Hunsey, you've done a good job this year. Strider Davis. That's a hockey name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Strider Davis, you've come a long way, baby. Keep up the good work. I tell him he's like a pinball out there. I mean, he bangs off people. He's a little guy, one of our smaller players, but you wouldn't know it. He plays with a big heart, and his kids all over the ice. He's not afraid of contact. I mean, he's good to watch. And then we have my grandson's roommate, Luca Petroni. What kind of a name is that? It sounds like a mafia hitman.
I was going to say, yeah.
Luca, you've come a long way, babe. Keep up the good work. Get a little stronger. Snap the puck. They're always after him. He's got the weak shot, but he doesn't really. He's a hardworking kid. Jed Banana. It's spelled banana, but it's got the it's the Filipino.
Right.
The Filipino.
Right.
He's a Jeff Banyana. Thanks for being part of the team this year. I got to look at their pictures. The Poodle. Kyle Lathan. Good man. Good kid. He come from Bakersfield. We really appreciate your efforts, man. Just keep up the good work. Your dad's made a great kid out of you. Dean, if you're listening, that was for you. Maxwell Clark did not play with us. He was at a camp last summer. He took a hit, blew his knee out, but he could have come back. They cautioned on the safe side. No sense in him getting injured again at the end of the year. Not that he will. I think that knee is stronger than the good knee.
Great.
So he'll be back with us. He'll be a senior next year. Max, we're looking forward to you to join the team. And here he is, 6'2", 240 pounds.
The
Clayton
big kid.
Brown,
Yeah.
big boy, big man on the ice. Also from Bakersfield. Thank you, man. You've done a good job this year. Keep up the good work. We'll see you next year. Ethan Saldana. Now there's another. That's kind of an interesting name. Ethan's from Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Billy Jack Hayes. Remember, he was a wrestler, but that's another
Yep.
story. You heard that.
Yeah, wrestling for Don Owen back in. I say I'm a kind of a wrestling historian.
There you go.
Yeah.
You and I could do a show on that. I was way before your time.
Pat Patterson.
Oh, yeah, way before
Yeah.
Pat Patterson.
Roy Shire here in
How about
Stockton.
Freddie Blassie?
Yeah.
That's another.
Freddie Blassie.
Freddie.
File my teeth.
Yeah. That's another. Let's not get off there. Then we have Itai Bandar. This is your kid, Anthony Alvarado.
Yes, indeed.
And then we have our graduating senior, Alex Gano. We will miss you next year. Hell of a defenseman. Great skater. Gonna miss that boy. Who else we got here? I'm looking at pictures and they're blurry. So, and there's my man Sar. Sar, you better get your rear end in gear when you go over and play with the national team. Get your stuff going. And Jack Hansen, my man, Jack Hansen. Guess what you led the team in this year? It's not goals, penalty minutes. My man, Jack, I think I looked before we came on the air. You were at 32 penalty minutes. We got to cut that down and turn that over to scoring next year.
And the Hansen brother legacy continues.
And you know something? His brother's coming, Christian Hansen.
Oh, there we
plays for
go.
So I'm going to get them dark glasses and some tape, and off we go. And then Sean Keogh, it's your birthday today. Happy birthday, Sean. He's our only goaltender left, doing a great job. He was our backup, and then he got thrown into the mix, and he's done a good job this year. And
Awesome.
Keep up the good work. We'll have you. Most of you are all coming back except for Alex. Good luck to you in your future. I know Coach is getting you prepared to go on to the juniors. The first goal of the season, because it's first, right? The first year, John, you got to have first, right? First goal of the year was Alexander Gano. The final goal was at the J. Sarah game playoffs, Anthony. So you had both of them, the front and back. I want to talk a little bit about J. Sarah. Where we got, we're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. They're not cutting me off, or I don't hear any music playing, so I guess we're good. So they go out against J. Sarah. They won the state championship for Caja, and they just won the Duck League that we play in Southern
Right.
California. They beat, both times they beat Santa Margarita, which was a top team. And the Duck League was basically for these two teams. They built the league around these two clubs, so they're very good clubs, deep, good programs. Anyhow, we get going. We kept tying them. It was 1-1. Then we went up 2-1. They tied it at 2. They went up 3-2. We tied them at 3. At the end of 2, we're tied at 3. We come out in the third period. Again, maybe flat a little bit, or just coming out, because in this league, after 2 periods, they take a timeout to
resurface, yeah.
resurface the ice. They come back out. The other team, I'm sure they got their rear ends chastised, because you got a number 7 seed against the number 2 seed.
Right.
And these guys we knocked them out by beating them the one time we did during the year. We knocked them out of being in first place. First place team in the playoffs gets a bye. So
Right.
I'm sure that was talked about in the room. You guys, these guys owned you the why we're playing in second place instead of not playing this game.
Right.
So they came out. They had a little step. They went up 4-3. A couple minutes in, I believe they were on a power play. Puck was going wide, hit one of our defensemen's skates back of the net, and then they scored late in the game. But
Right.
the score was 6-3, but it was a much closer game than that.
Great.
They're one of the first teams, the first year to make the playoffs. So they have a lot of good things. I think the future for us is good. Like I said, we have 11 to 12 people coming for next year. We should have a full roster. I know the coaches are out trying to get a couple more goaltenders, a few more goaltenders just in case of injuries. It's always good to have extra players.
Right.
So it's something that we're building in the future. We will be back on the air on the 28th, which is 2 weeks from tonight. We'll have, I understand, I got a strong rumor that Jim Brusa, the president of St. Mary's, will be sitting in John's very seat. And Coach Eisler wants to be aboard.
Oh, that's
We're
cool.
going to have Coach Eisler. And to get my buddy back, my cohort in crime, Zach Lytle, he'll be back from his training mission. He's out there looking for skaters for us. So we'll be back with a full complement of people. Got any last words for us, Dustin? John, you got any last words?
I just enjoyed being here. And again, next year, St. Mary's, make sure that you guys show up and support the team. It's pretty amazing. I had a great time. It's good hockey.
Yeah, it is good hockey. And I think we did pretty well the home games we did play. We put on a good show for people. Like I said, a couple things I want to get to real quick. And then I know we're running. I'm looking at the clock now. We got about 2 minutes left. We have a golf tournament coming up on the 19th of May. We're a little bit out. I'll start pushing harder on in April. We need foursomes to play. We need at least 15 foursomes to make this thing worthwhile for the club. It's a fundraiser. So I will get some information out to you there. You can contact me, Rick at ChaseChevrolet.com. We'll get you all the information you need. We need looking for sponsorships. We will have a hole-in-one car out there, a longest drive, all that type of thing. We're playing at Oakmore, great venue. And then I want to give it, I have to do this for my dear friend Roy Morales, who's not here tonight. I don't know what he's saving somebody. I don't know what he's doing, but kissing babies or whatever he does. Anyhow, don't forget, mark this date, June 15th at Lincoln High School. We have the Lions All-Star Game. Roy got it to come back to Stockton after a 4 or 5 year hiatus. It's going to be a great time. He's asked me to be the guest of the halftime show.
Oh, there you
There's no batons. There's none of that for me. But anyhow, we're going to have some alumni from previous years, announce them to the crowd, and we'll have a great time out there. June 15th, May 19th. I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, keep your skates on the ice and reach for the stars. Have